Hello and welcome to this chess tactics review of the discovered attack. A discovered attack is when a piece in front of another piece moves out of the way, revealing a discovered attack by the piece behind the first piece. And so here's a demonstration. Here it is White's turn to move. And we see with the evaluation that he is ahead here because he has a discovered attack that is winning this game. And so the rook and bishop and queen are all lined up, and the discovered attack involves the bishop moving out of the way, and the rook has a discovered attack on the queen. But this move also involves a check. So the bishop will move out of the way, and after bishop captures on a7, the discovered attack is revealed on the queen, but the queen cannot capture and mate white because this bishop has moved with a check also against black's king. And so black would be forced to recapture with king captured, or the king could move away, but his best move would be to capture, and now the queen is open and white is able to take the queen, and in this position white should win easily. And now I will move on to another example of the discovered attack. And so in this position, once again, it is White's turn to move. And here, the king will move out of the way to either e3 or e2, attacking this knight. But if he would move to e2, there's a possibility of a check. But either way, as you can see by the evaluation, White would be winning in this position. But e3 would be the best move, and here we see the king has moved out of the way of this rook that is lined up on this knight in the distance, but the king is also attacking this other knight. So a doubled attack many times will play a part in these discovered attacks. So the king moves out of the way, attacking this knight, but it discovers an attack with this rook on the knight here in the distance. So they are both under attack and they cannot escape. One or the other will be captured. And so white should win this position easily. And now I will go on to another example here. And here there are more pieces in play here, and so it may be a little more difficult to find out what type of discovered attack white can use here. Now, in the last example, one piece moved away, attacking another piece, and the discovered attack, the piece that presented the discover attack was attacking another piece. So in this position, we have knight to e6, and it is a little different because once this knight moves to e6, we see a discovered attack on this unprotected rook, but we see also not necessarily a discovered attack on this pawn by the knight that moved away, but a threat of mate here. So this discovered attack is a little different in that one piece is now being attacked with a discovered attack by the queen, but also a square is being attacked and threatening mate here on g7. And so the best move for black would be to capture this knight, but then after queen takes a7, white is ahead in material and should have enough of an advantage to win the game. And so let's move on to another example. So in this position, it is white's turn to move. Oh, excuse me. It is black's turn to move in this position. And we have this knight able to move to c7 with a discovered attack on this knight, and the piece that moved away is attacking this bishop. So this is a double attack. The discovered attack often involves this double attack when one piece moves away attacking another piece, and it reveals a discovered attack on a second piece, or a square, as we saw in the last example. And so here, no matter what no matter what white does, he will end up losing a piece. So the computer recommends knight captures on f7. Interesting. But after knight takes b5, this knight can retreat, but black is ahead in this position. And so now we'll move on to another example. And so in this game, once again, it is black's turn to move. And here we have a discovered attack that involves a check. So we have a pawn that can move forward here to d3, attacking the queen. But as this pawn moves, it reveals a discovered attack by this bishop down the diagonal, checking the king. So now the king is forced to move out of check. And after the king can move out of check, but another move, as recommended by the computer, would be to block. So remember, whenever you're in check, you usually have three options: to kill the attacker, capture the attacker, to block the attacker, or to run from the attacker. So here we have a block. The queen blocks the attacking piece, and after capture and a recapture, in this position, black is ahead and should have enough to win this game. All right, on with another example. In this position, we have an interesting little mate in one. So once again, the discovered attack involves a piece moving out of the way and revealing a check on the king. But this one is a little different, as once this rook moves to f8, we have a discovered double check, which is very powerful, as this rook has moved away and checked the king, but also this bishop is checking as well. So whenever you have a double check where two pieces attack and check the king at once, then the only possibility is for the king to run away from these attackers, as he cannot block two attackers at once, and he cannot capture both of those attackers at once. So here we see the king has nowhere to run, and he is being checked by the bishop and the rook, and so this is mate. All right, the next two examples, the final two examples, are from games that I played recently. And in this first game, I had the white pieces, and here I was trying to decide what move to make. As we look at the evaluation, the game was even, and the computer recommended b3, which is what I ended up playing in the game. So I moved to b3. that way this bishop would be able to move out and the queen would not be able to capture if I left this pawn on b2. And so here we see the computer recommends multiple moves that would have kept the game even, but my opponent thought that I blundered and left this pawn unprotected. And so after capturing this pawn, you can see the computer evaluation immediately jumps in white's favor. And so here I captured this pawn on h7, and we have a discovered attack on the queen, but the king is being attacked here by this bishop. And so here my opponent resigned, as if he captures here, then my queen would capture. And so this is another example of a discovered attack in which you use a check on the king, which forces the king to respond to that and allows you to capture a piece. And the final example is another game that I played, and this game is pretty interesting, so I will play it from the beginning here. And so it began with d4, and then my opponent responded with knight to f6 to cover the center here. And after knight to f3, d5, the game is symmetrical in the beginning here. And I bring my other knight up to help cover the center and to reinforce this knight. And here my opponent played h6, so maybe he was afraid of a bishop sacrifice at some point, or he didn't want my knight to jump up to his position here. And so I just castled, then he castled, and then c4, attacking his central pawn here with my side pawn. And he responds the same way, and so I just reinforce my c pawn, and this also will allow my bishop to jump up here to b2 and attack down the diagonal. And so shortly we will come up on the position that involved a discovered attack that helped win the game. And so the game continued with development by both sides, and then finally this knight jumps up into the center. And then here we'll have an exchange of pawns and pieces that will set up this discovered attack. And so he just develops his queen on this diagonal here. And so I reinforce this knight. And then here the computer recommends that black play b6 to help fortify the c pawn. But he captures here, which gives white a half a pawn advantage, and it recommends that I recapture. And so I captured with this knight to help fortify my knight in the center, but also attack his bishop so that I could try and get rid of his bishop pair. So he captures here, and this allows me to capture his bishop. He recaptures. And now here I missed the best move, which should have just been bishop captures d4, and I would have had almost a full pawn advantage in this position. But instead, I captured up here, and he should have captured with his bishop, which he did, and now I capture. But we see I don't have as much of an advantage here. He should play queen to e7, but he did not see the threat here of a discovered attack. And so he just moves this pawn unaware of the danger. And so now we have this sequence of moves that leads to a winning discovered attack. So I capture his knight. And here already he has to move his queen because it is in danger here. We see my queen is lined up on his queen, and his best move would have been to retreat. but he would be behind in material. So he captured my bishop, and after this move, queen to h7, a discovered attack on his queen, but the bishop checks his king. And so after capturing the bishop, I was able to capture his queen and go ahead in material enough to win. The game went on for a few more moves before my opponent resigned, but this was a very interesting game that showed a setup to a discovered attack. And so I hope you enjoyed this chess tactics review of the discovered attack. And hopefully you will be able to use some of these ideas in games of your own and help you perform a discovered attack or two on your opponents. So thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe, and feel free to leave comments or suggestions. Thank you and have a great day.